Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stapakaya cha dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoramamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate, who came to establish religion universal. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The Master has given number of spiritual instructions for the spiritual seekers who want to get rid of ignorance. Let us pray to Him with all earnestness so that our life on this planet become meaningful. Today's topic I have selected great teachings. All the spiritual masters all over the world, saints and sages, they have given teachings very clearly, and no confusion there in teachings. With all this available, why we are suffering is because we are not open-minded, we are not serious, we are not sincere. So we are in this world not to become worldly, but to transcend the worldly nature. That is, to acquire spiritual knowledge, to struggle for the realization of the divine truth. We have come on this earth plane just to engage in spiritual practices, just to acquire spiritual education. So lessons are there, illumined teachers are there, but qualified students are not there. Unless we are tuned towards spiritual way, we can't escape from sufferings in this world. Our intellect becomes confused. We cannot think properly. We cannot act properly. Everything is done in the wrong way. Naturally, we get wrong result. The wrong result is suffering. Spirituality is open to everyone in this universe. So, we should take up the spiritual ideas in all earnestness and follow diligently. There is a famous Sanskrit teaching which points out the great teachings. Nasti lobha samo vyadhihi, nasti krodha samo ripuhu, nasti daridrivat dukkham, nasti jnanat param sukham. Most fantastic verse. It says, Nasti lobha samo vyadhihi. Lobha means greed. There is no ailment equal to greed. Most important. Secondly, Nasti krodha samo ripuhu. There is no enemy equal to anger. And Nasti daridrivat dukkham. There is no sorrow worse than poverty. To all this mounting obstacles, God has provided solution. And that is Jnanat Param Sukham. There is no greater happiness than knowledge. Knowledge means spiritual knowledge. The knowledge which uplifts you. It raises you from your lower nature to higher nature. Which makes you divine. Which makes you love the whole universe. Which makes you feel you are the part and parcel of the whole creation. That is an amazing experience one will get by the pursuit of spiritual knowledge. Lord Buddha also has expressed in a most effective way. He says, there is no fire like poison, like passion. Passion is poison. There is no fire like passion. Passion means indulgence, abusive nature. There is no shark like hatred. There is no snare like folly. And there is no torrent like greed. How nice. You don't have to have volumes of spiritual ideas to dwell upon. These are quite enough to make your life blessed. If you really perceive it with all earnestness, try to overcome all the defects. One can see God, one can realize the truth in this human body. Even before death you will be experiencing tremendous joy, tremendous peace. What else you want? Nothing can equal peace. Today, what are we seeing? The three poisons of greed, anger, and stupidity are ingrained in people's lives deeply. It is no easy matter to remove such suffering. You see, the whole universe is being tormented by so much of violence, hatred, because of these three poisons. Why don't you see them? Why don't you try to improve your life? Why should you waste your time in unnecessary gossiping? Simply, without any meaning. Men and women are victimized by passion, anger, greed. Go to any family. These three are prominently present, displaying in full measure. So you find every family is full of disharmony, restlessness, tension, stress, all sorts of negative qualities. So, man is losing his basic quality of humanness because of this poison. Lord Krishna also says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita, the divine message. Chapter 16, Lord Krishna says, Trividham narkasya idam dwaram nashanam atmanaha kamaha krodha tata lobha tasmat etatrayam tyajet. Without mincing words, Lord Krishna says, points out the reason for our untold suffering, and he gives a command, get rid of them mercilessly. As we have said earlier, same thing Lord Krishna has said here. Kama means passion. Krodha means anger. Lobha means greed. These are the three main culprits, demons, occupying everyone's mind and playing tricks. We are all innocently, ignorantly are being played upon by these demons. Once a person asked Sri Ramakrishna, Master, Why does a man have sinful tendencies? Why should he have? Sri Ramakrishna answered very clearly. Look, in God's creation, there are all sorts of things. He has created bad men as well as good men. It is He who gives us good tendencies, and it is He again who gives us evil tendencies. The whole creation is going on because of the friction caused by the interplay of the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. That's why the whole universe is called Trigunatmika Jagat. That's the realm of Maya. Maya means under the influence of these three gunas, we are deluded. Then the person asked, Master, in that case, we are not responsible for our sinful actions. Are we? Sri Ramakrishna answered him. Please note, sin begets its own result. This is God's law. Won't you burn your tongue if you chew a chili? In his youth, Mathur Babu led a rather fast life. As a consequence, he suffered from various diseases before his death. Every one of us, without exception, are under cause and effect. One may not realize this in youth. I have looked into the hearth in the kitchen of the Kali temple. Sri Ramakrishna tells, when logs are being burnt, at first the wet wood burns rather well. It doesn't seem then that it contains much moisture. But when the wood is sufficiently burnt, all the moisture runs back to one end. At last, water squirts from the fuel and puts out the fire. So, one should be careful about anger, passion, and greed. People have no control at all about this. Every day we can read in newspapers how people commit atrocious sins prompted by anger. Terrible, terrible, unbelievable. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of great Hanuman, the great devotee of Sri Ramchandra. He became so angry with Ravan. In a fit of anger, he burnt Ceylon. At last he remembered that Janaki was living in the Ashoka grove. Then he began to tremble lest the fire should injure her. Luckily, fire did not burn her. She was fireproof. Sri Ramakrishna said, there are two signs of knowledge. First, an unshakable buddhi. The intellectual faculty is called buddhi. No matter how many sorrows, afflictions, dangers and obstacles one may be faced with, one's mind doesn't undergo any change. That is, Sri Ramakrishna is explaining the characteristics of an unshakable intellect, unshakable conviction. It is like the blacksmith's anvil, which receives constant blows from the hammer and still remains unshaken. And secondly, Sri Ramakrishna says, manliness. That means very strong grit. If lust and anger injure a man, he must renounce them once for all. If a tortoise once tucks in its limbs, it won't put them out again, though you may cut into 4 pieces. There's a story. There was a king once upon a time who desired that anyone who had seen the holy prophet in his lifetime be brought before him. After some time, they could find a person. A very old woman was brought before the king. She was pretty old. The king asked the old woman, "Did you see the prophet yourself?" She said, "Yes, oh sir." If she remembered any narration from him, she said, "Yes." What is that? She said, when old age comes, 2 things become young. One is hope and the other is greed. It's a beautiful story. The king thanked her and gave her some valuable gifts to her. The woman thanked the king and she was surprised by the gift. Anyway, half the way some thought passed through her mind and she desired to be brought before the king once more. When she was brought again, the king asked, "Well, why have you come back?" She said, that old woman said, "O king, I just came to inquire whether the money you gave me were once for all or is it to continue every year?" See the hope. The king thought, how true is the prophet's word. She has hope of life even now. And she has greed for money too. Then the king, in a compassionate way, said, "Don't worry, you will be paid every year." But poor woman, on the way, she breathed her last before reaching her home. That is the story. We need to be educated properly. And we have to be very open-minded, and practice. One evening, an old grandfather told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside the people. He said, "My son, there is battle constantly going on in everyone's body. The battle is between the two wolves inside everyone. Wolves. W-O-L-V-E-S. Wolves. Who are those evils? Who are those wolves? One is evil. What is evil? Anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and lastly, ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. How nice. The grandson thought about these ideas for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Father, which wolf wins?" Both of them are wolves, you told. Which wolf wins? The old grandfather simply replied, "The one you feed." Fantastic. Greed, as I already pointed out, greatest enemy of a person. It ruins a person. Once there was a greedy king. He had only a daughter but no son. He felt about it badly. He inquired. He called the learned people, Pandits of the court, and asked them, "Well, I want a son. What's the way?" At that time, sage Narad happened to visit him. Then all these court Pandits immediately told the king, "Look, if you can worship Narad, your wish will be fulfilled. He's a great saint." So king was eagerly waiting. It so happened, Narad came. He received with great honor, received him. He worshipped him. And then finally he prayed for a son. "I want a son to be born." Then the sage asked him, "Well, what sort of a son do you desire?" The king replied, "I want a son who will be beautiful, who will be healthy, and who will be intelligent. Besides, it's not enough for him, as if they were not enough. Because he is there, to grant boon. So he was ready to ask more and more. Then the king says, "Besides all this, pearls should fall from his eyes and mouth whenever he cries or speaks." Narad said, "All right. Tathastu. Amen. Let it happen." And as Narad Maharaj blessed him, in due course, a son was born to the king. According to the wishes of the king, pearls fell from his mouth and eyes whenever he cried. Soon the palace was filled with pearls. How many times the baby cries, so many times the pearls will come. Even if he speaks also, pearls will come. Opens his mouth. Even the doors and the walls of the palace were inlaid with pearls. So the story of this miracle child spread like wildfire. The whole country came to know about this. Naturally, it excites some people. A gang of robbers, they came to know of this, and they decided somehow they should kidnap this child. So they entered the palace at night and stealthily carried away the child. Later on, the security people came to know the child was missing, and immediately a massive search was done. So the king's command reached the robbers, who collectively decided future course of action. Because if they are caught by the security people, they will be cutting their heads. So, what these people did, robbers, they had collected enough pearls, and after having lot of pearls, it would have been wise for them to release the child. But greed is not allowing them to release the child. One of the robbers thought that if they cut the child to pieces, they will get pearls from every drop of his blood. His assumption. They thought like that. Accordingly, the robbers cut the child to pieces, but no pearls came from dropping of his blood. They then realized that their greed has ruined them. By then the soldiers surrounded them, they bound them and brought them to the king. The king came to know about the tragic end of the child. At last the king realized, my greed has ruined me. He wanted Narad to bless him, with the child. Whenever he opens mouth, speaks or cries, pearls should come. Greed. So he accepts that. Devotee asks a question to Sri Ramakrishna. Master, if God is responsible for everything, then why should people speak of good and evil, virtue and vice? One commits sin also by the will of God. Isn't that so? Another devotee, he also intervened and said, how can we understand the will of God? Sri Ramakrishna said, there is no doubt that virtue and vice exist in the world, but God himself is unattached to them. There may be good and bad smells in the air, but the air is not attached to them. The very nature of God's creation is that good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness will always exist in the world. Among the trees in the garden, one finds mango and jackfruit and hog plum too. Haven't you noticed that even wicked men are needed? Suppose there are rough tenants on an estate, then the landlord must send a ruffian to control them. The conversation again turned to the life of the householder. Master said to the devotees, you see, do you know what happens in householder's life? By leading a householder's life, a person needlessly dissipates his mental powers. The loss he thus incurs can be made up if he takes to monastic life. Then Sri Ramakrishna explains, the first birth is a gift of the father. Then comes the second birth, when one is invested with sacred thread. There is still another birth at the time of being initiated into monastic life. The two obstacles to spiritual life are lust and gold. Attachment to lust diverts one from the way leading to God. Man doesn't know what it is that causes his downfall. Once while going to the fort, Sri Ramakrishna said, I couldn't see at all that I was driving down a sloping road. But when the carriage went inside the fort, I realized how far down I had come. Alas, women keep men deluded. Captain says, Sri Ramakrishna said, Captain says, my wife is full of wisdom. And Sri Ramakrishna says that, referring to that. The man possessed by a ghost does not realize it. He says, why, I'm all right. It is just like that. The devotees listen to these words in deep silence. Please note that Sri Ramakrishna is not showing any disrespect to women. What he meant is the lust. That's what he meant. Yam said, Master said, it is not lust alone that one should be afraid of in the life of the world. There is also anger. Anger arises when obstacles are placed in the way of desire. Master Maharshi said, at meal time, sometimes a cat stretches out its paw to take the fish from my plate, but I can't show any resentment. Sri Ramakrishna said, why? You may even beat it once in a while. What's the harm? A worldly man should hiss. H-I-S-S, hiss. But he should not pour out his venom. He must not actually injure others. But he should make a show of anger to protect himself from enemies. Otherwise, they will injure him. Then Sri Ramakrishna said to him, there is no substance whatsoever in the worldly life. The members of Ishan's family are good. So he has some peace here. Suppose his sons had been disobedient and addicted to drink and other vices, then there would have been no end to his troubles. One very seldom comes across such a religious family in which all the members are devoted to God. I have seen only 2 or 3 such families. Generally, one finds quarrels, misunderstanding, jealousy and friction. Besides, there are disease, grief and poverty in the world. Seeing this condition, I pray to the Divine Mother, O Mother, turn my mind at once from the world to God. So Sri Ramakrishna is suggesting that we should turn our mind to God. Look at Narendra's troubles. His father is dead and the members of his family are starving. He has been trying his utmost to secure a position, but he has not yet found one. Just see how unsettled his mind is. Then Sri Ramakrishna said to him, "You used to come to Dakshineshwar very frequently, but why have you become such a rare visitor? Perhaps you have become particularly friendly with your wife. Is it true? Why should I blame you? Why should I blame? The influence of lust and gold is everywhere. Therefore I pray, O Divine Mother, please, please, please don't make me a worldly man if I am to be born again in a human body." There is a Brahmin scholar there. He said, "Why should you say that, sir? The scriptures extol the life of a householder." Master said, "Yes, that is true. But it is very difficult to lead the true life of a householder." Then I was talking about jnana. There is nothing equal to jnana, knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes how knowledge is very essential. A devotee said, "What remains with a man when he goes beyond jnana and ajnana? That is, knowledge and ignorance." Master said smilingly, "When he goes beyond them, it is vijnana. That is special knowledge of God. To know many things is ignorance. To know that God dwells in all beings is knowledge. And what is vijnana? It is to know God in a special manner. It is to know God in a special manner, to converse with Him and feel Him to be one's own relative. To know that there is fire in wood is knowledge. But to make a fire with that wood, cook food with that fire, and become healthy and strong from that food is vijnana." And Sham said, a devotee, "And about the thorn?" Sri Ramakrishna smilingly said, "Yes, when a thorn gets into the sole of your foot, you procure a second thorn. After taking out the first thorn, with the help of the second, you throw both thorns away. Likewise, you should procure the thorn of knowledge in order to remove the thorn of ignorance. After destroying ignorance, you should discard both knowledge and ignorance. Then you attain vijnana." Vijnana. Sri Ramakrishna was pleased with Shambasu. He was quite an elderly person and wanted to devote his time to contemplation. This was his second visit to the Master. Sri Ramakrishna advised him, "Well, give up worldly talk altogether." See how pointedly he tells. Give up worldly talk altogether. Don't talk about anything whatever but God. If you see a worldly person coming near you, leave the place before he arrives. You have spent your whole life in the world. You have seen that it is all hollow. Isn't that so? God alone is substance and all else is illusory. God alone is real and all else has only a 2 days existence. What is there in the world? The world is like a pickled hog plum. One craves for it. But what is there in a hog plum? Only skin and pit. And if you eat it, you will have colic. Sham said, "Yes, sir. everything you have said is true. Sri Ramakrishna said, for many years you have devoted yourself to various worldly things. You will not be able to think of God and meditate on Him in this confusion of the world. A little solitude is necessary for you. Otherwise your mind will not be steady. Therefore, you must fix a place for meditation at least half a mile away from your house. Shambhasu remained silent a few moments. He appeared absorbed in thought. Master said smilingly, besides, all your teeth are gone. Why should you bother so much about the Durga Puja? A man used to celebrate the worship of Durga with the sacrifice of goats and with other ceremonies. He continued the worship many years and then stopped it. A friend asked him, why don't you perform the Durga Puja anymore? Brother, replied the man, my teeth are all gone. I have lost the power to chew goat meat. Shyam said, how sweet these words are. Master said smilingly, this world is a mixture of sand and sugar. Like the ant, one should discard the sand and eat the sugar. He who can eat the sugar is clever indeed. Build a quiet place for thinking of God, a place for your meditation. Have it ready. I shall visit it. And again, Sri Ramakrishna said, ask God about it. Pray to him sincerely. He will tell you everything. Speak to Jadu Malik and he himself will tell you how many houses he has and how many government bonds. It is not right to try to know these things at the beginning. First of all, realize God. Then he himself will let you know whatever you desire. Shyam said, sir, how much wrong, how many sinful things a man does in this world, can he ever realize God? Sri Ramakrishna said, if a man practices spiritual discipline before his death, and if he gives up his body praying to God and meditating on Him, when will sin touch him? It is no doubt that the elephant's nature to smear his body with dust and mud even after his bath. But he can't do so if the mahout takes him into the stable immediately after his bath. In spite of his serious illness, Sri Ramakrishna keenly felt the sorrow and suffering of people. Day and night he thought about their welfare. The devotees wondered at his compassion. The assurance of Sri Ramakrishna that no sin can touch a person if he gives up his body while praying to God was deeply impressed on their minds. Master said, God dwells in all beings. He is the gold in all. In some places it is more clearly manifest than in others. God dwells in the worldly minded, no doubt, but He is hidden there like gold under deep layers of clay. Mukherjee, another devotee, asked, Sir, what's the difference between worldly and otherworldly things? Sri Ramakrishna said, while striving for the realization of God, the aspirant has to practice renunciation, applying the logic of neti neti, not this, not this. But after attaining the vision of God, he realizes that God alone has become all things. At one time, Sri Ramchandra was overpowered by the spirit of renunciation. Dasharath, worried at this, went to sage Vasishtha and begged him to persuade Ram not to give up the world. The sage came to Ram and found him in a gloomy mood. The fire of intense renunciation had been raging in the prince's mind. Vasishtha said, Ram, why should you renounce the world? Is the world outside God? Reason with me. Rama realized that the world had evolved from the Supreme Brahman. So he said nothing. Buttermilk is made from the same substance as butter. One who realizes this knows that butter goes with buttermilk and buttermilk with butter. After separating the butter with great effort, that is to say, after attaining Brahmagyan, you will realize that as long as butter exists, buttermilk also must exist. Wherever there is butter, there must be buttermilk as well. As long as one feels that Brahman exists, one must also be aware that the universe, living beings, and the 24 cosmic principles exist as well. What Brahman is cannot be described in words. Everything has been polluted, like food that has been touched, the tongue, that is, everything has been described in words. But no one has been able to describe Brahman. It is therefore unpolluted. I said this to Vidyasagar and he was delighted. But the knowledge of Brahman cannot be realized if the aspirant is worldly minded, even in the slightest degree. He succeeds in acquiring this knowledge only when his mind is totally free from lust and gold. Parvati once said to her father, "Father, seek the company of holy men if you want the knowledge of Brahman." So, I hope we have understood a little bit of great teachings. Let us try to practice them. Page 997. Prasanna said, "I have neither jnana nor prema. What have I in the world for support?" Tarak said, It is no doubt difficult to attain jnana, but how can you say you have no prema?" Prasanna said, "I have not yet wept for God. How can I say I have prema? What have I realized in all these days?" Tarak said, "But you have seen the Master, and why do you say that you have no jnana?" Prasanna said, "What sort of jnana are you talking about?" Jnana means knowledge. Knowledge of what? Certainly of God, but I am not even sure of the existence of God. Tarak said, "Yes, that is true. According to the jnani, there is no God." Yam said to himself, the Master used to say that those who seek God pass through the state that Prasanna is now experiencing. In that state, sometimes one doubts the very existence of God. I understand that Tarak is now reading Buddhistic philosophy. That's why he says that according to the jnani, God doesn't exist. But Sri Ramakrishna used to say that the jnani and the bhakta will ultimately arrive at the same destination. Narendra and Prasanna were talking in the meditation room. Rakal, Harish and the younger Gopal were seated in another part of the room. After a while, the elder Gopal came in. Narendra was reading from the Gita and explaining the verse to Prasanna. The Lord, O Arjun, dwells in the hearts of all beings, causing them by his maya to revolve as if mounted on a machine. Take refuge in him with all thy heart, O Bharata. By his grace wilt thou attain supreme peace and the eternal abode. Relinquishing all dharmas, take refuge in me alone. I shall liberate thee from all sins. Grieve not. Narendra said, "Did you notice what Krishna said? Mounted on a machine. The Lord by his maya causes all beings to revolve as if mounted on a machine. To seek to know God, you are but a worm among the worms, and you to know God. Just reflect a moment. What's a man? It is said that each one of the myriads of stars that shine overhead represents a solar system. This earth of ours is a part of only one solar system, and even that is too big for us. Like an insect, man walks about on this earth, which compared to the sun is only a tiny ball." Narendra sang, "We are born, O Lord, in the dust of earth, and our eyes are blinded by the dust. With dust we toy like children at play. O give us assurance, thou help of the weak. Wilt thou cast us out of thy lap, O Lord, for a single mistake? Wilt thou turn away and abandon us to our helplessness? Oh, then we shall never be able to rise, but shall lie forever dazed and undone. Mere babes are we, Father, with baby minds. At every step we stumble and fall. Why then must thou show us thy terrible face? Why, Lord, must we ever behold thy frown? Small are we, oh, do not be angry with us, but tenderly speak to us when we do wrong. For thou dost rise us 100 times, 100 times we shall fall again. What else can one do with a helpless mind? Then he said to Prasanna, surrender yourself at his feet. Resign yourself completely to his will. We shall stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name that bought for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from the old Lord will be as 1,000 years. For my heart burns away with his desire, the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated with noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bonds. May the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.